What is up, mis compadres? Welcome to the unknown number episode of Left Face. I'm your host, Robo. I hope everybody is doing well. Ben Frank, peace and infinite blessings and salutations to you as well. Maneater coming in with the first. If you want to count from the moment I go live, then. Otherwise, Sing Fang, Architect of Sin, was over in the YouTube chat in the pre-game lobby. That's what's up. That's how you know you're about it. I'm gonna keep the hellos and everything short because this thing is already off. We are in it. In case anybody doesn't know how to read, and it's okay. I'm not shaming you if you don't know how to read. But the thumbnail still should have been a guess, a hint. Today is the debate. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris. Which one is going to walk out of there alive? I think that's how it should be from now on. It should just be a fight to the death. And then Game of Thrones rules, you get to choose your champion. Hydrate and do. Oh, it's not. It's closed.
F-35s, fighter jets.
You can't see
Thank
it.
you.
Literally, you can't
Thank you
see
so
it.
much.
It's right next to it. You can't see
CG?
it.
Is that CG? Did I
Dot.
get that
I
right?
have BKED out 3 hours to pretend to work, but actuate just to hang out here, smiling face with hearts.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Respawn. I have booked out 3 hours to pretend to work. That's what's up. I hope the kitty's still okay. Welcome. All right. Sorry to rush through everyone. We're just gonna get into it. Maneater, Blur Without Fear, Sig Fang, Big Ben Frank, Respawn from the Upside Down. Let's get into it. Let's see what's going on.
Grievances and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to
He
do,
doesn't
as
know
you know,
what-
and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing
to do with Project 2025. That's why I said
that's
don't
out
lean
there.
into it.
I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that
thought it
nobody
was
thought
fake.
possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot
Do
of
they?
things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs
I
they
thought it
got
was
were
fake.
bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy.
You can't
and
say that his
the
plan
best
is Project
economists in our
2025 and
country,
then
if not
say
the world,
he has no plan
have
for you.
reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look
Happy
at
birthday,
where we are
Cersei.
and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we're trying to lower taxes.
Beta,
She
what's
doesn't have
up?
a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I
Run,
do want to drill
spot,
down on
run.
something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and
Why
let's
is he
drill
calling
down on
Mr.
this
President?
because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming
can do
into
it,
this
Susan.
country. As you
I
know,
believe
many
in you.
economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of
China.
the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps.
It looks a
in the
little
history
less
of our
orange,
country,
but
because I've never seen a
you
worse
can
period
still
of
see the
time.
makeup
People
line.
can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick.
right.
In terms of workers'
We don't
rights.
say cunt
But
around
what
here.
Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that
What's up,
Xi was
DSB?
responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips
You
from
sneaky,
Taiwan.
sneaky.
We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist.
Yes.
Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's
She reminds me of my
21
mom.
million people, not the 15
That's
that
my-
people
that's
say.
the way my
And
mom
I think
looks
it's
at
a
me
lot
whenever
higher than
I-
the 21. That's
I'm
bigger
full
than
of
New
shit.
York State
Uh-huh.
pouring in. And
Oh,
just look
really?
at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane, almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that
not what he said.
Because they're radical.
That's a pretty
the
interesting,
Democrats are
in other
radical
words.
in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now
85% of Americans that do not include
you're going to see, look, this is an issue
his vice
that's torn
president,
our country apart for 52 years.
who called rape
Every
an
legal
inconvenience.
Scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the
with all due
United States
respect,
Supreme
you
Court
just
with
lied
the
out of your ass.
intention that
Anyways,
they would undo the protections of Roe
Vice
v. Wade.
President, please continue.
And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter.
62% of Americans in 2022 said abortion should be legal in all or most cases. 62%.
And two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50.
Not now, stupid. We're talking about after November.
She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans.
That's a good move he did right there. That was good.
Probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he
that was
spends
actually
all his
pretty
time
slick.
on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said
yeah, that's
that
great,
would
but you haven't
veto it
answered
if
the
it did
question
come to
yet.
your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans.
Actually,
they taunted young
They did.
people and a lot of other people.
Tens
that
of
had
millions
loans.
of dollars, maybe
They could
hundreds
never
of
get this
millions.
approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every...
Imagine being in Georgia and having been raped at 11 years old, and because it took too long to report it, you're at 11 and you have to hurry up and get to North Carolina to get an abortion. And if you can't get it done in time, there won't be anywhere for you to go to get an abortion.
When they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts,
True story.
I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month,
Yes.
7th month?
Yes.
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why
It's a
don't you
trap.
answer
She
that
can't say
question?
yes.
That's the problem. Because under Roe v. Wade, you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were...
Now, I mentioned this last time, but just in case anybody wasn't here, that what he's talking about, there was a Virginia doctor that did say something kind of like that, but not about abortion, obviously, and not about letting it die or killing it. There are do not resuscitate options for anybody. Right? I could say do not resuscitate me, or my caregiver, right? If I'm not mentally sound, can for me say, you know, we're going to do a DNR. They're not talking about aborting the baby. They're saying sometimes babies are born so severely malformed and with health problems that, like, okay, do you want us to resuscitate? And they're like, no, we're just going to let nature take its course and we'll try again later. That's not aborting the baby. They gave birth and the baby died.
On the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone,
guns,
called
drugs,
up
and human
some
beings.
folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why?
In the 80s,
because
yeah.
he'd prefer to
That's
run on
wild.
a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something.
That's a good line right there. I like that.
Immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter.
You might get shot, but
He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about
She's
is
doing that
you.
on purpose.
You will not hear him talk about your needs,
Yes.
your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve.
That's all he's gonna
a
talk about.
president
Watch.
Who actually puts you first, and I
Watch.
pledge
That's
to
all.
you that I will.
She did it.
Vice
She did that
President
shit on
Harris,
purpose.
Thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to
Yeah,
respond.
I'm just
Ask the
look. It
why
doesn't
did
even
you
matter
try to
because I'm not
kill
going to
that
answer your
bill, and
question.
Successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go,
Got
she's
'em.
bussing them in and paying them to be there.
Got
And
'em. Little
they
Tigers.
drive them in a different
Fighter
area.
jets.
Yeah.
She can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies.
Even if it's right next to it,
Rallies,
it
the
can't
most
see.
incredible rallies
Got
in
that
the
tier
history of
Low
our country.
one.
That's because
TIGR.
people want to take their country back.
Low
Our country is being
TRGIY.
lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
In Springfield,
Isn't that
they're
convenient?
eating the dogs, the people that came
Oh,
in.
here
They're
we
eating
go.
The cats. They're eating.
Here we
They're
go.
eating the pets
Yes.
of the
Do
people
it.
that live there. And this is what's happening
Yes.
in our country, and it's a shame. As far
Oh,
as
yes.
rallies are concerned, as far as the reason
Oh,
they
they're
go
so
is they like what
fucked.
I say. They
They're
want to
so
bring our
fucked.
country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase.
Yeah.
Make America great
We
again.
did it, Joe.
She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance
So-
of success.
So if you guys haven't seen the headlines, one of the things that JD Vance is saying is this crazy.
Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant
Said that
community.
Haitians.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for
the
food.
people on TV, they say it. They say
a good
it.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by
Haitians.
the people that went there.
They don't want to. He doesn't want to say it.
Springfield city
Haitians.
manager says
JD
there's no
Vance said
evidence of that.
Haitians.
Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
Haitian immigrants are stealing your cats and dogs.
You know, this
Get
is,
'em.
I think, one of the
Get 'em.
reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the
You
endorsement
fucking
of
idiot.
former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general,
Yeah,
has
she
said
got
he
him.
has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit.
Even if it's true, right? Even if in this neighborhood, you know, people were starving and they were forced to have to, you know, kidnap pets and eat them or whatever the fuck, right? Imagine being so fucking stupid that on an international stage during a presidential debate, you want to use that as a way to say that immigration needs to be under control because they might eat your cats and dogs. Like, what a fucking
Most
idiot.
of those people, not so graciously, they did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family.
That's
They
not
didn't
true.
fire- they should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody
pretty sure that's
does a
not true.
bad
Hold on, let
job,
me see.
I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation.
Rough Rider,
They
that
didn't
ends up
fire
being
any of
bullshit.
their
It's not true.
economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes
And it
than
was
any
Venezuelan
Republican
gangs, I think.
in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
How? You lost the
Let me
popular
continue on
vote.
Immigration. It was what you wanted
Stupid.
to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using
President
the US
Trump,
military.
why is it that,
You also said you would
President
use local
Biden
police.
has deported
How would
more
you,
people than you
deport
did?
11 million undocumented immigrants. I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of...
Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman and interim Aurora Police Chief Heather Morris said Venezuelan gangs are not taking over apartment complexes and forcing residents to pay them rent. Residents of a building called The Edge at Lowry say CBZ Management, the company that owns the building, caused poor living conditions in the apartments, not Venezuelan gang members. 4 4 gang members were arrested in connection with a shooting that occurred in a building owned by the same company that owns the Edge Lottery. So,
Coming from someone
yeah.
who has been prosecuted
Lo Tigre on YouTube.
national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault.
Got him.
And his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
Got him.
And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris.
Haitian gangs taking over Chicago.
Every one of those cases
It was just a barbecue, though.
was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most
Wrong.
of them, and I will win the rest of
Wrong.
appeal.
State
And
of
you saw that
State
with
of
the
New York
decision
is
that
not the
came down
executive
just recently
branch.
from the Supreme
The
Court.
state of Georgia is
I'm
not the
winning most of them.
executive branch.
But those are cases.
Stupid.
It's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
Thank you.
Well,
A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune
That's right.
from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about
and no mark to
democracy.
prove
I'm
it.
a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump.
Russia.
Did he say I probably took a bullet to the
that
head?
went nowhere.
We have a lot
Did he
to
say
get to,
I
Lindsay.
probably
Vice
have?
President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't.
It's
You wanted
possible.
mandatory government
Maybe
buyback
kind of a
programs for
bullet
assault
might
weapons.
have
Now
hit me.
Your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act.
Because she
which
has to
opened
follow
new
Biden's
leases
rules.
for fracking.
Right, because
My
Biden said so.
position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot
Trump
rely on
in 2020 raised the notion of termination of all rules, regulation, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. This was this was on either Twitter or Truth Social, and during when he was having a temper tantrum after he lost the race.
$400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times is a value that I bring to my work, to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people.
Her values have changed because in the 2019 debates, she said she absolutely supported the Green New Deal and said she would ban fracking. And then when she was debating as the vice president in 2020, she said that she didn't say she supported it, but she said Biden will not ban fracking, right? And then when she made the tie-breaking vote, it's because she has to, support the president in his agenda. So she absolutely changed her mind on fracking.
Billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly. And everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
He's
Sound
waiting.
familiar?
He was waiting.
She went out.
Don't what?
In Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis.
Does that sound familiar?
She
See
went
what I
out
did
and
there,
raised money
guys?
to get 'em out
See
of
what I
jail.
did?
She did things that nobody
Fucking
would
got
ever
her.
think of. Now
Got
she
her.
wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately
transgendering
let these guys go
illegal
to where they
aliens.
were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago.
This is an episode of Homelander,
They got it
of The Boys.
to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see?
Hey, do me a favor. If you guys are chilling over here on Twitch, if you don't mind going to the stream over on YouTube, just go ahead and please click a like over there. I would appreciate it.
These are not good things for the environment that she understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters
4
to
hours.
go home.
It was 4 hours.
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
No.
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer. that should have never, ever shot
Ashley
her.
Babbitt was a
It's
domestic
disgrace.
terrorist and was trying to
But
climb
we
into a
didn't do
secured
this group
area
of people
with
that have been
a
treated so
violent,
badly.
screaming mob behind
I
her.
ask, what about all the people that are pouring
The
into our country and
cleanest
killing
shoot the
people
police
that
have
she
ever
allowed to
done
pour
in the
She was
history of
border
police.
czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
That's actually what was on his ear. It wasn't blood, it was
When are those people going to be
ketchup.
prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city
Minneapolis,
of Seattle.
gone.
When are those people
When
gonna
are
be
they going to
prosecuted?
pay?
But let me just
Seattle,
ask her that
gone.
question.
You were the
Portland,
president. You
gone.
were watching it
And
unfold on
nobody has
television. It's a
paid.
very
These
simple
cities are
question
wiped
as we move forward
from the
toward another
map. They
election.
don't
Is
exist
there
anymore.
anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know.
He is so
I
mad.
said, you know, this is going to be a very big
He's very
rally or
emotional.
whatever you want to call it.
This is why
And
men
again,
shouldn't be
it wasn't
president. They
done
just
by
get
me, it
too
was done by
emotional.
others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying,
calm
she
down.
is
You're-
fully
I'm sitting-
responsible
we're
for
all
what
right
happened.
here. We can
They
hear
want
you.
to get rid of that tape. It would have never
He
happened
might be
if
on his
Nancy
period.
Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible
Or
for
maybe, like,
security.
given his age,
Nancy
it's probably
Pelosi
like hormone
was
imbalance
responsible.
or
She didn't do her
something.
job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I'm going to tell you,
I was at
ABC
the
is
Capitol
eating
on
his
January
ass
6th.
up.
I was the vice president-elect. I
Men on
was also
pause.
an acting senator. I was there.
That's
And on
that's
that
good.
day,
That's
the
good.
President
I like
of the
that.
United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate
Yeah.
our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and
Harris
impeached
coming out here,
for
cool, calm, and
exactly that
collected.
reason. But this is
Listen
not
to
an
me
isolated
and listen to
situation.
how I
Let's
am talking
remember
right now.
Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches,
Jews will
spewing
not replace us.
anti-Semitic
Yep.
hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was,
Yes, he did. Don't
I
shake your
say,
head
we
no.
don't have to go back.
People don't
Let's
forget.
not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand
Like
for our
fine ass people,
democracy,
like
to
foin,
stand for
F-O-I-N,
rule of law,
foin.
and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about it. An election is fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls.
He lost the popular vote in 2016.
And we have to have good elections. Our elections
are
bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
When he says border, we die.
That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality.
Wait, are these translated? Not yet.
Where a person,
not until Harris gets her hands on them.
The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States.
This is a fact.
World leaders are laughing at Donald Trump.
Bernie Sanders has been trying to tell you.
I have talked with military
Occupy
leaders,
Democrats have been trying to.
and they say
no,
we're
Occupy.
a disgrace.
That's a Twitter account.
In this
Occupy
way,
Wall Street.
In a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election. It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
She is doing very, very well.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a tough person.
Shut the fuck up. What is funny about him constantly bringing up the most amount of votes in history is because Joe Biden literally is the person who has received the most amount of votes in history with 81 million votes in 2020. It's just wild. He just says shit.
Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said
to his credit, Trump did receive the second most in American history. So 74 million is not a little bit.
In our country, he ended that, but he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out.
He's sundowning.
0 votes. And
he's sundowning. Get him off. Get him off stage.
She was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more.
I think
now
not.
To the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages were still being held, Americans among them.
Here we go. She can get my vote back. Let's do it.
Quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you
this is how she can do it right here.
It matters how. Saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
You didn't go back far enough. You didn't go back far enough.
Attending a concert.
This didn't start on October 7th. It started in 1948.
Raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end.
And how are you going to do that?
It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire.
Weapons embargo. Oh, damn.
Out.
Oh.
And so we will continue.
I thought it was going to be a weapons embargo.
On that. Work around
if only the United States had the power to stop them.
For a two-state
solution. If only there was something the United States could do about it.
There must be
helpless. We're helpless. Our hands are tied.
Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
Yeah.
President Trump,
because Israel's totally going to let them have that.
And also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza.
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people.
We send billions of dollars to them. We send them weapons. And we sit there and go, oh, if only we could stop it.
Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party.
It's not real.
She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown
when Harris wins,
Arabs,
Israel won't exist.
Jewish people.
And communism is coming. Socialism is coming with walls.
Never happened.
Boy,
Iran
he is really painting a picture
under
there.
Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different
Yeah, I mean,
spheres of
Portland,
terror.
Portland's
and they
gone.
Are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke.
Terror.
Now they're a rich nation, and
Sounds
now
like my grandmother.
what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening.
I had an
with the
idea.
Houthis and Yemen.
Idea.
Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported
good.
Israel and the
This is
Israeli
good.
people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide.
I don't know if he's doing this on purpose, but that's actually really smart to make her force her to double down on her support for Israel. I don't think it's his idea, but his strategist, that is really fucking smart. Make her, say that she doesn't support, she's gonna double down, and he knows that her doubling down on Israel is gonna hurt her on the left.
Whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known
Maybe not.
that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week.
Crime
said,
rates,
I hope
huh?
she wins. And I think he meant it.
Them damn
Because what
crime
he's
weights.
gotten away with is
Way down.
absolutely incredible. It
They need to
wouldn't
get
have
their weight
happened
up.
with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. I will say this much though. I want to be able to say, wow, yeah, that is, I want to be excited. I want to be able to go, this is awesome. I'm so glad Harris is handling him. But meh. That's how I feel about it. Meh. Oh my gosh, yeah, we'll do this so we don't miss it like that. So what do y'all think? I think Trump has lost it. I think that thank you, Cami Madera, cheap viewers on foodfork.com. Do you want bots? Well, I got the bot for you. A bunch of bots that won't give you views or make you money. Do I not have a moderator? There we go. Thank you, Ree. Yeah, this is wild. Is wild. Here's the thing: is that in 2016 and even 2020, Trump has always been that type of dude to just kind of talk out of his ass and not really say much of anything. Oh, okay, now do I want to hear what this guy's saying? But he was sharp. He was funny. You know what I mean? He's he was doing his thing. Still a piece of shit, of course, but he was sharp. He was getting him in there. This guy has lost it. He has lost his touch, and he looks hysterical. He looks upset. Oh, dropping a lurk. All right. See ya. Take care. Cypher. Cypher has hit 18,000 subscriptions over on Cypher World. He is monetized. He's a YouTube partner. If anybody out there is looking for somebody funny and just video game, go ahead and give Cypher World. I think it's just like that, the underscore on YouTube. Valerie O. Hello, how are you? I mean, hola, ¿cómo está? Muy bien. ¿Y tú? Biblioteca, baño. Right? That's my Spanish tutor, by the way. Valerie's my Spanish. Everybody say hi. Hi, Valerie, the Spanish tutor. Ay, ay, ay. Have you been watching it? Has he answered one question yet? Yeah. Yeah, he has actually answered some questions. Now, has he answered them truthfully? That's the question. That's the question. Respawn over on the Twitch says, "Hi, Valerie." All right, bye, Cypher World. Lo tigre. By the way I ran back to listen to the Spanish. Nah, I just said some random shit. Judah Rad. Just popping into a brief hello to everybody, and also hitting Trump on crowd sizes or people leaving rallies is so effing funny. Why just for a moment? Why can't you just hang out? Huh? Ever since you had that kid, you've changed, man. You've changed. Kids change you, And then I thought, not you. Not Judah Rad. But he did. He did. He changed. No, I'm just kidding. Hola from Canada. McLeod, what's going on? Fun fact is, first time I ever saw this chatter here, I pronounced it McLeod. So I've grown since then. To quote Twisters, I don't think truth is in his vocabulary. That baby is giving bad vibes to the channel. I know, like we used to have Judah Rad here all the time. He was just in here, laying the smackdown a lot, and now he's not here anymore. Because he has to be back when you were rolling with Dane. Oh, those many years. What's funny is I say many. Yeah, it was like 2 years ago, wasn't it? Like this January will be 2 years. Since the whole Beta Boys thing. That's wild. Yeah, ew. That was totally unrelated. Ew, I bet, right? Right? Ever since you got hit by lightning, you're no fun. All right, we're about to get back into it.
Debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look.
That's a based answer.
We're in for 250 billion or more. Because
not that he's giving
Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done.
It's a good answer, but he doesn't have a plan for it.
They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe, like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275
She has
billion.
a pretty smile, that's for sure.
100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
Look, you guys say what you want, but that entire tirade that he just did just there was flawless. I hate it. It kills me to admit it, but that was... He actually went pretty hard on there and kind of was right the whole way around.
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last
It's all
hour.
good, Rough Rider.
I wanted her to respond to something
I thought
you
it
said
might be
earlier,
true, too, and then...
Please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow.
It was all over
and he wouldn't have
TikTok,
lost
too. People were talking
300,000
about
men
it.
And women. But he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And
He said it.
eventually, maybe he'll use
said
it,
it.
and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk
TSB
about.
called it.
Nobody likes to talk about
You
it.
win.
But just so you understand, they sent
Nuclear.
her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. and the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength,
what did she say?
understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy.
Got him.
And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan.
It was wonderful.
It came up in the first hour of the
beautiful
debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President,
that's what I was going to look up.
do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying
Damn, that's
the
a spirit
$300
Obama,
million
too.
a day. We were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got
I'm pretty sure she's lying
to
about
where
that
we
one.
are. Donald Trump, when he was
Because nobody
president,
can call her on it because
negotiated
the places
one
where
of
they
the
are
weakest deals you can imagine. He calls
are
himself a deal
top
maker.
secret.
Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility.
I mean, we handed over the country to them. I don't know.
To be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to...
I mean, I get what she's saying about inviting the Taliban over, but you had to think that, like, what is better? Inviting the Taliban for negotiations at Camp David, or taking a country that has lost thousands of soldiers and hundreds of thousands of civilian lives dead, and then just giving it back to the Taliban, the people we were fighting for 20 years. Like, I'm like, you don't really have a leg to stand on with that.
A lot of them with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. but I got involved.
True.
And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18
He's so full
months,
of shit. Things
we
that
had
never
nobody
happened.
killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind.
Yes,
and
you would
just
have.
to finish,
because it would have cost more to bring it back.
blew
That's
it.
why.
The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago.
You can't
when
say
she
it makes
happened
you
to turn
angry
black,
and then laugh.
now she wants to be known
You got to
as
do like a
black.
mad face or
I want
something.
to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity
This
of your
guy.
opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her.
You got to pick one.
Vice President Harris,
You have
your
to
thoughts
pick
on this?
one. Nobody could be both.
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who
We'll see. If I
wants
do
to
get
be
it, it's going to be a little bit
president who
later.
has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what
Thanks
separates
for
us, and we
swinging
don't
by, though,
want
Elite.
this kind
sorry
of
you have to go to
approach
work.
that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was
You can't be Indian and black at the same time.
land. He owned land. He owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
True.
Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent. The
No,
Central Park
you got to pick
5
one, Elite.
took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Black. I
And
thought
I
he
think
was
the American
Hawaiian.
people want better than that.
He can't be
want
black
better than
and
this.
Hawaiian.
Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each
There
other
it
a
is.
neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me,
Hell yeah.
can we please just have
I
discourse
mean, to be fair,
about
like,
how we're going
there
to
are two
invest in
people
the
who have claim to this
aspirations
land,
the
and that's the
ambitions
indigenous
and dreams
people
of the American people.
and African Americans.
Knowing that regardless of people's
their
color
blood,
or
African
the
American
language
blood
their
is in
grandmother
this
speaks, we
soil.
all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going
Like
back many, many years.
stuff,
when a lot of
like
people,
bad
including Mayor
things.
Bloomberg,
I
agreed
can't
with
think
me
of any
on the
right
Central
now.
Park 5. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if
They
they
were
pled
coerced.
guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. but they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
You know what's wild is that
Briefly.
the power of the
Clearly,
of the U.S.
I'm not
president,
Joe Biden, and I am certainly
the
not
fact that
Donald Trump.
we can cause
And what I
inflation
do
around the
offer
world.
is a new generation of leadership.
It's
for our
almost
country.
as if inflation
One
is a
who
byproduct
believes
of the COVID
in what is possible,
lockdown.
one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to
Okay.
pursue
She's on a
what
roll.
has been
She's
fleeting
on
in
a
terms of
roll.
the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers.
I have a plan.
That's the kind
Flan.
of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She
please.
has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate
She has a plan.
everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank
you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
She's
like,
like, yeah,
President
okay,
Trump,
sure.
The
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
going
need
to
to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now
times.
your
Yes.
third
I
time
don't-
running
I don't
for
know.
president. You have long vowed to
I don't
repeal
know.
and replace the
Maybe
Affordable
nobody.
Care Act,
I'll
also
vote
known
down-
as
I'll vote
Obamacare.
down
You
ballot for
failed
everything
to
else.
accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with
Always
something,
was,
and we are working
always
on
will
things,
be.
we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration.
Many good people.
We read about the bad ones. We
Many
have some
people
real
are
bad
saying-
ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going
Yeah,
to be great.
I'm-
and
I'm
it's too
pretty sure
expensive
that,
for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's
You don't have a plan. Okay, got it. Got it. There's way too many words to say I don't have a plan. I don't know if I'm going to vote. I may not. I don't know. I for sure will vote down ballot. And I suggest everybody, I want everybody to do that. On the 15th, I'm going to be canvassing with my local organizations here. Migrant Equity Southeast is one organization. So I definitely going to make sure people get out and vote and know their rights on voting. I don't know. I don't know.
Vice President Harris, in
I don't know.
2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is
everyone has to
maintain
just
and
do
grow the Affordable
themselves.
Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to
respect
respond to
that,
a
Ailey.
previous point. that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking.
I don't consider throwing it
and then
away.
this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just
Can't
look
make
at the
me.
history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that
Redneck
was
Farm
like?
Tech. What's
remember
up?
when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act.
I'm glad to see you back.
We have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month.
That's a fact,
Since
and
I've
he
been vice
can't
president,
say anything back about
we have
that.
capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this
F-35s,
is that
fighter
access
jets.
to health
You
care
can't see it.
should be
You
a right
literally, you can't
and not
see
just a
it.
privilege
What a
of
day.
those who can afford it. And the plan
Dot.
has to be
Imagine watching an
to
orange
strengthen
turn
the
into a
Affordable Care Act,
tomato.
not
What a
get rid of
day.
it.
Vice
Fastest
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
What's
I wanna
up,
move
Dr.
to an
Midnight?
issue that's important for a
She
lot
made a
of
mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve
Sorry, not exactly
private
legit.
insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give.
President
People
Trump.
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question
I
to you
really
both
need J.D.
tonight
Vance
is
and
what
Walz
would
to
you
debate.
do
That's
to
gonna be
fight
good.
climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state
not
who has
wrong.
experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has
Climate
been,
got real brand new
the
around here.
victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels.
So
We
Redneck
have
Farm Tech,
created
it says
over
first
800,000
time
new manufacturing
chatter.
jobs.
Is this
While
is
I
this
have been
L
vice
on a new
president,
account?
we have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the
Okay.
world. Donald Trump said he was going to
I
create
assumed as much, but I wanted to
manufacturing
make
jobs.
sure.
He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in
Boo. I hate that.
American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in
The
Mexico.
trans migrants.
In many cases owned by China. they're building these
the Harris
massive plants.
the
and
Harris
they think they're gonna
walls
sell their cars
will
into
trans
the
the
United States
migrants
because of
and have
these
them
people.
clean the
What
energy
they
and
have
cool
given
down
to
the
China
climate.
is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place.
Make cars
What
more
they've done to
expensive.
business and manufacturing
That's what I'm talking
in
about.
this country is
Because if the
horrible.
Jones Act
We have
has taught
nothing
anybody
because
anything,
they
is that when you
refuse- know,
force
Biden doesn't
people
go
to
after
buy
people
American,
because supposedly China
things
paid
get
him
more
millions of dollars. He's
expensive.
afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, let's see how we can do this. I want to do something else right quick like.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
I wanna do like some brain rot for a commercial.
The House will be in order.
This year, C-SPAN.
Let's do brain rot, but I want to figure out. Okay, I'll put this here so I can see it. I don't want to miss it. You know what I mean? I want to miss it. Wait. The Haitians. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Oh yeah, this is a good one. I like this. Racist Karen realizes she's going to jail for murder. Shot a lady through the door because the lady was banging on it. Because she called her kid the N-word, and her banging on the door, she shot through the door and she got murdered. Here, let's do this. Did you ever look at that brain rot? Oh yeah. Drop that link. That's a good one. You're right. I did want to watch that. If you find it, where did you put that shit? Was it in topic suggestions? No. Still can just go for it, but I'm walking to work literally as I'm typing. Okay, no worries. Was it in general chat? Okay, well, we're gonna have to do it later. Let's do pop the balloon. 13 days ago, 1 day ago. Pop the balloon or find love season 2 reunion. No, we don't care about that. Eject the least attractive person. Oh, no. That doesn't sound very nice.
They say when women mount, women mount. They mount, they full ground. They are here to find love. They don't keep person. These are people from 30 years and above. I'm sure you enjoyed the last episode. I saw the views and I was like, wow. Okay, so let me keep giving you guys what you want. That's why I brought them here.
Intermission. We're just going to do this until I'm paying attention to the other window.
Our slogan is Hans Game Show. We dey cure depression. And that's on periods. Okay, so if you don't like daddy coming in or the young man coming in, pop the balloon before he even reaches.
Yeah, we'll do this. But
if you want to give me a chance at love,
maybe
I'll. Single man, please review yourself.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Hi, please come in, sir. Hello, sir. Please, what's your name?
My name is David Kamala.
Hey, look at him.
I'm 55.
But what did you think? He looked 55.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a businessman. No, I do import and exports. I do real estate.
Okay, sir. So, what type of legal?
I like how respectful she is because of how old he is.
For
okay, sir.
Matured women, they can take care of their household, when you get to a certain age, you become a baby. So I want someone that can handle this big baby in a good way. And
what does she do with her face?
I don't have to worry about anything. I will take care of the person.
Dude, hey, if you are 55 years old, please do not call yourself a baby. Please.
I want a mature woman. You know, all these kids, they think that everything is money and everything.
How are there not that many balloons popped? What is going on here?
It shouldn't be everything.
It shouldn't be everything, you know. So that's what I want.
Okay. So have you been married before? You divorced?
Wait, I feel like a lot of people in this lineup is older.
And had a divorce long time ago.
Like how many years was that?
It's going to about 10 years.
Wow.
You know, and you know, when you get to a certain age, like I said.
Okay, I'm done with you. We're done. We're done. Get out of here. You're out.
YouTube, man, what is good? It's your boy, Robert the Sauce Man, here with another freaking video. And we finna break the internet real.
All right.
And the other that is focused on the past and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
So that was
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things.
Dignified.
Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack,
in
we're not
November.
going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East.
Imagine being so delusional that you don't realize that everybody was laughing at you.
We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war
like clips
no
of
other
world leaders laughing at him behind his back.
I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country.
Can't help but repeat it every time I hear it.
The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay.
So what do y'all think? Who won? Who won? I think Trump won. I think Trump destroyed her. With a capital D. I think that I don't think that she had much to say. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. I do believe actually that he did make some good moves. I think making her double down on her support for Israel was very smart tactically. And I think that his criticism of the Biden administration for not being able to stop Russia from moving in. I mean, we are the world's largest military. So when he talks about the fact that Biden wasn't strong enough to make Putin respect that, he kind of has a point. He kind of has a point. Now, do I? Just because you be able to stop it doesn't mean you do the right thing. Like I think that Obama would be able to have stopped him, and maybe even Trump. But with Trump, it would be like the Ukrainian people would be dead, right? Would Trump be able to stop the war in Palestine? Sure, by I don't know, putting American forces in there. I don't know what the hell he'd do. Scared you when I said he won? No, he didn't win. The guy's bumbling. He's lost it. He's lost the edge. He's not sharp anymore, and he's gonna lose. And after this performance, well, I'd be willing to bet. Take it. Keep your eyes on the polls for the next couple of days. He is definitely going to take a little bit of a slump. Do I think it would make a difference to the swing voters to vote for Harris? Do you think it will make a difference to the swing voters to vote for Harris? With regard to what? As far as this debate? If you mean this debate, yeah, okay. I do think so. A lot of people, they have this idea that everyone who's going to vote for anyone is already in the camp. Like the only maybe we'll see either way is only for Kamala Harris. And that's not true. As somebody who is close to people on the right because of my time in the military and old friends and family, I have my ear pretty close to the ground when it comes to conservative thoughts. And there are a lot of, she actually called it inside the debate. When Harris talked about being endorsed by X amount of Republicans, there are a not small amount of Republicans in the United States that are like, God, dude, like if we let this guy win again, we're, because they have, and it's not like they're good guys either. Right? I'm not going to be one of these fucking like, oh, everything used to be so great. No, the fuck we weren't. Right? Ronald Reagan arguably was maybe one of our most evil presidents. But the fact of the matter is that there are people who want that back. And if they watch this, hey, thank you. I appreciate the follow. Hey, Taco, it's you. Hi. Hey, Taco. I think people will want that back. People will definitely want that back. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, yeah, Redneck. That's what's up. That's what's up. Redneck Farm Tech, LNB. So yeah, that's my take. I do think that See, here's the thing. In 2016, as I, because I put out the video about why right now I'm not going to vote for Kamala Harris. But in that video, I talked about how in 2016 I was still kind of like new on the left, right? And there's this idea that even though you're moving away from it, but there's still some things that you haven't really unprogrammed, right? And that's why I did something stupid to like vote for Gary Johnson, because okay, I'm not a Republican anymore, but I can't vote for Hillary, Benghazi. So I'm like, okay, Gary Johnson, right? And I think that's where a lot of people are going to see themselves in this election, where they're like, man, I can't vote for Trump. I don't want this, but Kamala Harris, the Democrats. But you watch this. And this is the dice they're rolling. What they are rolling is for those people. They are betting on those people, right? Because if they were to say that that there's a ceasefire and we need a one-state solution, and Palestinians need freedom, and what Israel's doing is a genocide, and all the stuff, right? And we're not going to rebuild the wall, and we do need police accountability, right? If they want it full, if she even went full progressive, not even full leftist, like just be progressive, what she's afraid of is that she's going to lose those votes who don't want to vote for Trump, but might be willing to vote for Harris. Now, personally, I don't like that position. I don't like what she's doing. I think that it would be a slam dunk if she were to say, all she has to do is, she doesn't even have to like talk about a one-state decision, a one-state solution. She doesn't even have to say any of that. All she has to say is, yes, what happened in October 7th was bad, yada, yada, yada. They had a right to defend themselves, yada, yada, yada. But unfortunately, today they have stepped too far. And I am planning, we will, if president, will enact an arms embargo if Israel has not pulled out of Gaza by then. And we're not even talking about, see, this is what's funny. This is what people don't really understand. We're not even talking about like making it great, like making it good, right? We're not talking about Gaza as its own state and tear the fences down. At this point, there is so much death and destruction. People would just be like, can you just make them leave? And we'll just go back to the way it was on October 6th? Because I would really like that right now. If she were to just say that, I think it would be a slam dunk. It would be a slam dunk. But we'll see. We'll see. It might pay out. It's paying out so far. I can't lie. I'm not going to be delusional about it. It's absolutely paying out so far. She stays up in the polls, but she's up in the polls like 1 point, 2 points. In some places, she's deadlocked. I think in Arizona or Nevada, one of those two, Trump's up by a point. Like, this is razor thin. Razor thin. Didn't Reagan put an embargo on Israel back in the 80s? He sure did. He sure did. That's the thing, is like this idea that, and I'll tell you what, AIPAC and the ADL, man, they've done a really, really good job on figuring out a way to make anti-Zionism anti-Semitism. Like, they did it. And I didn't think it would work at first. I'm like, who are these people fooling, When they were saying this in January, February, March, right? Who the fuck are they fooling? And here we are. Here we are in September, right? We're almost a year from October 7th. And we have our Congress passing rules on anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. We have Democrat officials talking about how the keffiyeh is like waving the Confederate flag. Like, it's working, and it's working so well that damn near every politician right? Save a few brave ones, have to do the line. They have to say the thing. October 7th was bad. It was a terrorist attack. And this all started in October 7th, and Israel has the right to defend itself. And I don't, you know what? I don't think it's all because of AIPAC money. I don't think that's what it is. Because don't forget, the largest Zionist group in the United States are evangelical Christians. So it's less about AIPAC money and more about the offending the offending Christians who think that, you know, because here's the deal for those who don't know, there is a mosque on the Temple Mount right now. A mosque. And what Christians want, and like Orthodox Jewish people, like practicing religious Jews, they want that torn down. Now, you want to see World War III? Tear down that temple. Like, you think it's gonna be a few rockets across? I don't think so. I think Iran marches. I think everyone marches on that one, and no one's gonna win. No one's gonna win. But according to the Book of Revelations, and even Old Testament prophecy, as soon as that temple is destroyed, and the Jewish temple, the one to the one true God, right? Whatever, that is the sign for the second coming of Christ. Now, if you're Jewish, that'd be the first coming, right? Because they don't believe in the first one. A very small group of Jews want to rebuild the temple. Definitely a minority of a minority. Right. Right. That's one thing that I got to give it to the Jewish community on. I've learned a lot, especially from old CG here. Look for CG in the Discord. He's offered that before. If you want to DM him or DM them and get some they are they them, get some ask some questions about Judaism. They'll answer. Temple Judaism is pretty unrecognizable from modern rabbinical Judaism. Well, all the same, evangelical Christians, and by the way, we like to say evangelical Christians to be like, okay, not all Christians, and for sure, not all Christians. But let me tell you something. Even though we know the evangelical Christians to be like the insane people who are, want Christian nationalism and et cetera, right? Every Christian believes that the second coming of Christ is going to happen when that temple's rebuilt. That's not a fringe thought. That's not like some denominations. That is absolutely a part of the book of Revelations and prophecy. When that temple is rebuilt, that is the sign for the second coming of Christ. That doesn't mean every Christian would love to exterminate Arab people. There are Christians who'll be like, yeah, it'll happen peacefully. We're not gonna, it'll just happen. Of course, the evangelical nutcases are gonna be like, kill them all, rebuild the temple. How it happens, that's where Christians will disagree on. But every Christian believes that the second coming of Christ is going to happen when that temple is rebuilt, and every Christian believes that Jews are the children of God, of their God. So I don't buy that it's just AIPAC money. It's not. It's we live in a Christian hegemony, and that shit matters. That shit matters. All right. That said, we're out about 2 hours now. Tomorrow I'm going to be live. We'll get some topics put together. And if you're not already in the Discord, check out the Discord, and you could always give me some links and topic suggestions in the topic suggestion box. And I appreciate it. I hope Christ does come back. I don't think they're going to like his skin tone, though. They definitely won't. They definitely won't. First century, Middle Eastern of the Levant. Yeah, I don't think he's going to look like anything like any of the portraits. If he even existed at all. I'm just saying there's a possibility. I accept that he's probably a historical figure. Ladies, gentlemen, and NIMBYs, that is the end of the show. I am Robo. This is Left Face. And I want you all to make sure to not only take care of yourself, I'm out, not only take care of others, but make sure you take care of yourself too. Hydrate, hug your mom, call your parents, call somebody. And I'll see y'all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. Adios.